a.m. We got the call there's an active shooter in one of our buildings. The base is currently shut down. The active shooter has been neutralized. We are working with local law enforcement and with the FBI in our actions afterwards. As I said, the base is shut down. It'll be shut down until further notice, until we can really understand the situation. But the important thing is that it is no longer an active shooter situation. We do have several deceased and several wounded. My heart goes out to those families of the deceased and of the wounded. They're part of the Navy family. They're part of us, and our heart goes out to those of you who may be affected by this tragedy.
At approximately 6:51 this morning, the call went out to the Escambia County Sheriff's Office Central Dispatch that there was an active shooter on Naval Air Station, Pensacola. We had 2 units immediately respond, many to come behind, of course. While we would love to do a full disclosure with you this morning about everything that we are aware of, quite obviously we cannot do that. There are things that we are now in the investigative process that are required to be held back by not just the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, but our lead federal agencies, which of course are the FBI and the ATF and the associated federal partners that we have, and the U.S. Attorney's Office is also present. I want to assure our community that the threat has been negated. Our community is secure at this time. We have no reason to believe or are we looking for any additional shooters within Escambia County, not just within the parameters of NAS Pensacola. I would tell you this strikes home particularly hard for me as a retired military member. Walking through the crime scene was like being on the set of a movie. And as the mayor eloquently put, you just don't expect this to happen at home. This doesn't happen in Escambia County. It doesn't happen in Pensacola. It doesn't happen to our friends and neighbors who are members of the United States Navy. But it did, and it has.
Come on, man.
And so for now, we're here to pick up the pieces. We have 2 officers at the Escambia County Sheriff's Office in the initial response that negated the threat that are now in a local hospital. We expect them to fully recover. It was a member of the Escambia County Sheriff's Office that did negate the threat. I will share that with you. It was one of our officers that did that. As the captain said, we have as of right now, we do have 4 deceased and approximately 8 total. That includes the ones that have deceased, by the way, that are injured.
Able to get a briefing from the command leadership here at the Navy base. Also spoke with the FBI. Have spoke with the president about the situation. And as a Navy veteran, anyone who serves in the Navy knows that this is a special place, Naval Air Station Pensacola. All these brave warriors who wear the wings, they come through here for flight training. And so this is a dark day for a very great place. I think it not only strikes at the heart of the community here in Northwest Florida, but throughout the Navy, nationwide, and really around the world, because there's so many people that have been involved in this base in one way or another. And I know that the president is actively monitoring in the White House, and the thoughts and prayers go out to everybody. We at the state of Florida have already dispatched support. Our Department of Emergency Management has sent a mental health coordinator to talk to any of the witnesses, any of the victims, the families, and offer whatever support they can get. Department of Children and Families has sent a mobile response team to the hospital. We have fatalities, but we also have people who are wounded. Some, like the Escambia deputies, look like they're going to be okay. Some are still in surgery, so we're praying hard for those folks. I think there's obviously going to be a lot of questions about, this individual being a foreign national, being a part of the Saudi Air Force, and then to be here training on our soil to do this. And the FBI is working with DOD, they're working with FDLE, they're working with the Escambia County Sheriffs to answer those questions. One of the things that I talked to the president about is, given that this was a foreign national in the employ of a foreign service, and there'll be time to do this, but obviously the government of Saudi Arabia needs to make things better for these victims, and I think that they are going to owe a debt here, given that this is one of their individuals. But what I can tell you is the response that we saw from the deputies at Escambia County, some of the active duty personnel responding to the scene. And you'll hear more in depth of some of these stories as the days go on. But I can tell you, lives were saved because of the response of people both in uniform with the Navy, in uniform with the Escambia County, and so in one of the darkest days, I think, of the base's history, you still saw some of that bravery and grit come out, and even people who had been wounded themselves thinking about others and what could be done to save others. And so those stories are inspiring and keeps us going on a very otherwise very bad day. And with that, I'm going to bring up the base commander of NAS.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everybody. Again, Captain Tim Kinsler, the commanding officer of Naval Air Station Pensacola. This has been a very, very difficult day for us, for our families, for the Navy family here. All I can tell you is that I am absolutely in awe of the response by our sailors, by our civilian DOD, and by the Escambia County Sheriff's Department. There was some real heroism today. I mean, real heroism. It made me, I'm devastated. We are in shock. This is surreal. But I couldn't be prouder to wear the uniform that I wear because of my brothers and sisters in uniform, civilian or otherwise, that did what they did today to save lives, and for our brothers and sisters here with the state of Florida and with Escambia County Emergency Management and the Sheriff's Department. From my bottom of my heart, I thank you. And thank you for the support, and thank you for support, Governor.
All right. That's about enough of that. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard by now about this shooting at the Naval Air Force Base in Pensacola, Florida. And there are several things I'm having an issue with in regards to this mass shooting, right? Let's get the obvious ones out the way. The shooter was a Saudi national. A Saudi national. Think about that. The shooter was a Saudi national. Let me ask y'all something. Does that ring a bell? A Saudi national and airplanes, jets. Does that sound familiar to y'all? You know what it brings to mind? So, the shooter is a Saudi national who was supposed to fly airplanes, right? He was being trained to fly airplanes. I wonder who could have been behind that. Osama bin Laden? Saddam Hussein? Iraq? Afghanistan? A Saudi national comes to the United States to commit terrorism. Obviously, it has to be Afghanistan and Iraq behind it. They came from Saudi. They're Saudi nationals. The Saudi national came to the United States to fly planes. Obviously, Iraq and Afghanistan was behind it. Obviously, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and Saddam Hussein's mastermind criminal in the syndicate was behind this because, Saudi nationals, the obvious choice, the obvious answer to who might have been behind this. When you hear that the culprit was Saudi, obviously, we can't look at Saudi. We have to go elsewhere to look at that. Reminds me of the USS Liberty. We got strafed, right? The USS Liberty got strafed for what? Hours by Israeli fighters, right? Israeli jet fighters. No, we couldn't blame Israel for that. That was no. 2 buildings fell. 3 buildings fell. 2 were struck by planes that were being flown by Saudi nationals. So the story goes. But it's obvious that Afghanistan in Iraq, the leaders of those nations, Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein, obviously was behind those attacks. Saudi nationals attacking America. Yeah, I'm trying to put that together. It's just mind-boggling how they can come up with that. It's just, man, these people are geniuses. I couldn't have seen it I couldn't have seen it right in front of me, right in front of my eyes. I think Saudi Arabia, right? Saudi national attacks United States. Perhaps him being from Saudi has something to do with it, or perhaps we should look at that. But no. I'm not thinking straight. No. Has to be a complete different nation. Maybe Egypt. Maybe Egypt was behind this attack. Let's see, is there anything we want from Egypt right now? Let's think about this. What does Egypt have? Iran, maybe. We want something from Iran, don't we? You know what? Maybe Iran, maybe the Ayatollah was behind this attack. Because, obviously, Saudi nationals who attack America can't have been given orders from Saudi to do something. No way. Anyway, so that out the way, let's look into something else. This happened on a military base. Now, you would think that a military base is going to be well guarded, well secure, and it is a military base with military personnel. You would think that there would be military personnel all up and through that military base to help prevent things like this, right? You would think that. And then you would also think that after 9/11, they started cracking down on who enters and who's allowed and not allowed to enter the bases, right? They check your car. They go under the car, make sure you don't have a bomb strapped under there. But somehow, a foreign national was able to get a firearm on base and kill several people with it. And it's a military base where you would think that there would be some heavily armed military personnel within the base to help prevent something like this. Well, you would be wrong, because essentially a military base is a gun-free zone unless you're doing drills or unless you're at the range. And even then, ammo is tightly controlled. Like, you don't have access to ammo like that. They have the ammo. They hand out the ammo. So you can't walk around on a military base all willy-nilly with a firearm. Even if you are military personnel, even if you are trained to use a firearm properly. But no, the military bases are gun-free zones. Yes, they are. Even the guards, right? The guards at the checkpoints, they're not holding, right? They don't have, they don't have an AR, they don't have an M4 strapped to them. No. Now, there's one available, but they're not just standing out there, on a regular day. Like if the alert isn't high, they're not just out there with the shit out. You know what I mean? So basically, what you have is a gun-free zone where you have thousands of trained military personnel that are efficient in the safe use of firearms, yet they're not able or allowed to travel about the base with a firearm loaded or otherwise. So if somebody decides to run up on a base and do harm, guess what? What would stop them? Not the military personnel necessarily. They might be able to act on their feet. They're trained to act on their feet. They're trained to operate under duress, under stress, they might react better than, let's say, than people at a school, right? Than the teachers in the school. They might react better than them. They might be like, okay, let's duck for cover, let's hide, let's do this, let's strategize. They have that. You might save more lives that way. But even more lives will be saved if you were able to carry your military issue firearms around with you on base. But you can't do that. You know, you go to the range, you let off a few rounds, and then you take it back to the armory. And I don't know how it works on a naval base. Do they go to the range on naval bases? Is there a range for do they do combat drills? I don't think so. Not on a Navy base. So here you have a naval base, a military base, where there might not even be a firing range for these military personnel to be proficient in the use of firearms. All right, let's look at that. Then what else happened? Well, the shooter was taken out by sheriff's deputies. Let me give you all a little tidbit. Sheriff's deputies do not operate or patrol within military bases. There are military police for that. So how is it that sheriff's deputies had to come onto the base and neutralize a threat on a military base? What was it? Why is it? How is it that the sheriff's department had to save the lives of military personnel on their own base? Something to think about. Well, I'll tell you why. It's like I said, military bases are essentially gun-free zones. If you don't have an infantry station there, no, you're not necessarily going to have ready access to an armory. You got to go to, even on infantry bases, you have to go to the armory to check some shit out. And you're not allowed to bring your own firearm, your own personal firearm, on base. Last time I checked. And you damn sure ain't allowed to walk around with it. You're not allowed to walk around with your personal AR-15 on base. You can't do it. It's just not happening. So here you have a government entity that will only allow you to open carry or conceal carry in the theater of combat. Oh, you can shoot as much shit as you want out at the range or during a field exercise or in combat, right? During war, shoot whatever you want, you carry whatever you want. But that right is not afforded to you. Once you get back in the rear, once you get back to base, nope. Not happening, partner. And this is a major problem. If you're not even allowed to defend yourself, if you're not allowed to carry whatever you need to defend yourself on a military base, back home in the States, but we can roll around in foreign lands with armored tanks, full battle rattle, with fully loaded, with 8 or 9 fully loaded 30-round magazines and an M4 or a squad automatic weapon or whatever the case may be. Oh yeah, go to those foreign lands. Carry this shit all you want. Yeah, you have an enemy to focus on here. So we can keep you focused on this enemy, and you'll only shoot this enemy. You won't be focused on the other enemies that are right under your nose, right? I'm gonna tell y'all something. When I was in Korea, 9/11 happened. Okay? 9/11 happened when I was in Korea. Now, before that time, you don't walk around with your shit, with your M4. You don't walk around the whole day carrying your shit around with you. No, that shit's sitting in the armory. until you go to the range or until you go to the field for training. Well, after 9/11 happened, we were all on 20-hour duty. Everybody. 20-hour duty, no shifts. No different shifts. There were staggered shifts, like, so that people can get the rest and still people be on duty. But everybody was on 20-hour shifts. And you were locked and loaded at that point, full battle rattle. If you left the barracks, and then you were able to go back to the barracks with your shit. Go back to your barracks room with your shit. With my M4 and all my magazines, And then when it was time for me to go on duty in the guard tower, I'll go on duty. My shit was locked and loaded. I had fully loaded magazines. I had my shit locked and loaded in not with one in the chamber, but it was ready for that. But we were on high alert. And we had an enemy to focus on. Right? But the enemy wasn't coming because we were in Korea. This shit happened in the United States. The 9/11 happened in the United States. The point is, the military bases are gun-free zones for military personnel. Period. So this is why this happened. And this is why a sheriff from off base had to come on base to neutralize the threat. But it's a military base. Anyway, see if y'all can make heads or tails of that. I can't for the life of me understand why that would be possible. Why we have military personnel on base when military bases are high value targets. I don't care if it's back here in the States or not. I don't care how protected you think we are back here in the United States, because there was really never any invasion to occur here. There were maybe one attack from a foreign nation, Pearl Harbor in Hawaii by Japan. But other than that, even if we are under the illusion of being untouchable, right? Uninvadable. Why would you have a military base filled with personnel who don't have ready access to firearms? Readily accessible. That means I can grab my shit right here. I shouldn't have to run to the commissary. I shouldn't have to run to the armory to pull something out to protect us with. Nah. That it makes little. I don't care if it's an Air Force base. I don't care if it's a naval base, Marine base, Army base. I don't care. The fact that they, come on. The fact that was even able to happen, the dude somehow got his hands on firearms. And this is what I keep telling everybody, criminals don't care about your goddamn gun laws. If they want to commit a crime with the firearm, they're going to do it. They're going to find one. There's always going to be a firearms ready and available on the black market that people can go get if they really want to do it. You're not going to stop it. Somehow he got that heater onto base and did what he did with it. So that's something for y'all to think about. Much love to y'all. I'll be talking about this more. Now, this is all alleged. This is if it really happened the way they say it did. Okay? If you listen to them talking, we can't give that much information. No. They ask, what type of weapon did they use? We can't do that. Come on, man. Fuck out of here. Come on. It happened on a military base, yeah, but it's not. Come on. How classified does it need to be? You neutralize the threat, right? There is no longer a threat. How could you say that if it was a foreign national who did this? How do you know that he didn't have any help? How do you know he isn't part of a cell that can activate more attacks? How do you know that? Well, I call bullshit. That's how they can say that. That's how they can say, there's no longer a threat. The threat's been neutralized. There's nothing else going to happen. How can you be so sure about that? Because it's bullshit. Because they do know. and it's bullshit. Anyway, hit that like button, share, subscribe, and I'll holler at y'all later. Peace out.